So let's take a look at the inner critic, in particular, the inner critic of the type 3, and start with a description, the inspiring champion, the achiever, the performer, the success-oriented, efficient type. And at their best, they have a particular radiance and charisma that they emit and conduct and inspire others to be in contact with. And we have a couple examples here of Sting and also Oprah. And, you know, the best of the three, when they're healthy, is that they really are in touch with their value. They're in contact with their own particular authentic desires, true desires to express themselves, and often are channels of support for others to rise and shine. And certainly both of these two people, Oprah and Sting, have done that in their own particular way. So this is a joke for the three, which is, you know, I'm looking in the mirror and I'm looking at myself and I'm looking really super awesome. And this isn't to discourage self-confidence or visualizing oneself as better, but it's really to reflect something that threes get caught up into when they're feeling less present, which is to project an image of being successful when on the inside they may not be feeling it at all. So we start off with what's called the essential quality, the innate quality of being that threes have the potential for embodying and maturing and creating on deeper and deeper levels. And so radiance has something to do with this capacity to really experience one's own radiance as a being, as a living entity. And when I'm healthy as a 3, I can feel my radiance and the radiance of all living things I come in contact with. It's like the life force is a light that shines. And I can also experience the preciousness, my value, that isn't dependent on my external performance. So there's a sense that I am innately valuable, and so are you. It goes both ways. So I become, at my very best, a mirror for you, realizing your preciousness. So using this graphic, we have that conversation that, you know, every little one has to develop a personality, becomes like a thin or thick shell around our natural vulnerability and essential potential. We live on planet Earth, and so we've got to navigate the messages of family, society, grade school, high school, our gender, male, female signals. And in the process, we develop a personality, hopefully one that allows us to navigate life in a way that is efficient. But nonetheless, there's a sense of our innate capacity, naturalness being stymied or a shell forming over it. So, you know, part of the whole story about the journey home is I've learned to relax the patterns that I've acquired from the life I have lived and what I grew up with. But when I lose contact with essence, often there's a real core desire to feel valuable and worthwhile. Because underneath it, when I lose contact with my radiance, is a sense of I am unworthy. And the only way I can initially compensate for that is by being outstanding in something that other people praise or appreciate. So nothing wrong with wanting to feel valuable and worthwhile. That's a healthy wish. But for the type 3, it becomes, in a sense, kind of the driving force around this loss of my own connection with my genuine essence. So self-image for Type 3, you know what the inner critic expects of me is I must be successful, admirable, a shiny package, outstanding. Average is not okay. Effective, practical, skillful, well-adjusted, meaning, I can go with the flow and still show up shiny and bright, and desirable. My inner critic is there poking me on the shoulder saying, you're not very effective right there. You're not very shiny. So what can I not allow? Being less than successful, a failure, a loser, falling short of a goal. So, type 3s will say that they often have a prodding inner character called the inner critic that is reminding them that yesterday's success doesn't matter, or that when they have succeeded, that it could have been better, or that they're a fraud, it wasn't a real success. A lot of different variations on that inner critic message that puts the type 3 on notice, like, I got to stay awake here, because the feeling of being unworthy, when that begins to arise, is so painful. As a type 3, since I've inherited this amazing capacity to be in action and to drive hard and fast towards a goal, I just amp up that inner performance machine and off I go, and that feeling of unworthiness recedes into the past until next morning. So we look at the levels of health, the first 3 levels, healthy, 4 through 6, average, unconscious, 7 through 9, in deep trouble. Can say that, when I'm healthy, type 3s are authentic, open-hearted. They tell the truth. There is, sort of open-hearted and direct as the type 4s can be when they're healthy. There's a sense of being able to adapt to circumstances, to not be caught up in any kind of rigid way of being. So I've got an adaptable heart. And I, have that capacity to feel my value and to shine the light of value on people around me, which cheers them up. Certainly, I think Oprah Winfrey is always trying to come up with another way to call people forth into a sense of well-being. So level 3, the healthy type 3 just has this sort of innate drive to polish whatever gifts they've been given and to be the best they can be, whether anybody's watching or not. It's not dependent on my crowd. So there's a way also healthy 3s are humble. They don't need to, shine the light on themselves to prove that they exist and that they're valuable. There's a way healthy 3s can become very modest. And they love to work on self-development. That's just, just how they're wired, and they love to encourage others to bring forth their gifts. So when the type 3 starts to drop down the levels, level 1, 2, and 3, I've got an open heart. I've got awareness of how my thoughts are spinning through my head, and an awareness of when I've reacted to my own inner suffering or to an assumed slight, and a way of having a kind of natural forgiveness for the flaws of myself and others. But when I start to lose contact with my value, my heart starts to close and my body and head center start to close down, we say the 3 drops to level 4. And there, since I'm not in contact with my innate value, I'm inclined to just go into performing mode to keep getting you to reflect back to me my value. So I can start to get hungry for recognition at level 4. This is where the personality protective mechanism of the type 3 comes online. And that inner critic voice that you're lovable if you succeed and impress others begins to be more present. And, all again pointing to the essence wound that I'm not precious or valuable. So level 5, we often say that when people hit level 5, their personality patterns have taken over, they're very identified with them, and they actually can't see objectively what they're up to. So at level 5, I am really polishing my external, my brand, my presentation, and I'm really trying to manage this thing called an image. And I'm getting myself blended into this story, this concept of who I am based on my image, and start getting rehearsed and practicing and making sure I know everything in advance that I'm going to present. So there's a kind of rigidity that I start to experience. I'm not as adaptable. Level 6, when my heart's closed even more. And my sense of having value has really become narrow. I, as an assertive type, just assert more and more how awesome I am. I become self-promoting, grandiose, like, here I am. This is your big opportunity to be in my presence. Okay, enough about me. What do you think about me, right? So again, I'm going full-blown unconscious here. Can't see that I'm being offensive. Goes from bad to worse. Level 7, all my centers are closing down. So now it's like I feel like I've got to do whatever I can to make sure I'm the shining star. And so if that means being dishonest, that's what I'll do. Level 8, compulsive lying. Level 9, I can become retaliatory, destructive of other people who I feel are getting the acclaim that I feel I deserve. I just, I'm just wrapped in deep suffering and don't have eyes to see it. So when we look at the inner critic demands, so you need to develop yourself to be all that you can be, which that's not a bad wish. It's just that when it becomes caught up in my sense that I'm not valuable, that my inner critic doesn't allow me to rest. Resting is lazy. You got to keep going. Others are going to beat you out. So then it gets heightened to you've got to be the best, not just successful, but the best. And of course, if I was the best yesterday, I got to reprove it to myself and others the next day because I still can't feel my value. So the inner critic's having a field day with me. You need to try harder so as not to fail. Work harder, push harder, go harder. And certainly we have stories of type 3s who have been driven in this way, and some have actually succeeded quite well, but in the process have lost profound contact with their own heart, and end up, in a sense, alienating the people that they've been working with. So always, the 3s I know will say that there's this little voice that's always saying, well, you can do better. That was good, but you could do better. And actually, you should have succeeded at this a long time ago. You're just kind of working kind of slow. So it can hit me from both sides. It can inflate my false personality ego and say, you're the best thing on the planet. Look how awesome you are. And then it will flip around and say, no, you're not that good. It was an accident that you were noticed. So the inner critic can hit from both sides. So the core belief, what my inner critic tells me, is your worth depends on impressing others. It's really in their hand and in the hands of the audience. So forces me to just naturally go out to be checking for good reviews. Your current success is not enough. You must continue to succeed. So there's no resting, there's no relaxing into the joy of succeeding. There's this constant tension that whatever feeling of success you have, it's only fleeting. And so you can't rely on yesterday's success. You can't rest. And then, another sort of insidious way that the message comes across is you never be satisfied. Never be satisfied. Others will win. Keep striving. Never rest. Never be satisfied means if you have a taste of satisfaction, you're only allowed to sip it for a second and then off you go again. So what does the 3 do under the demands of the inner critic? They do more to achieve. Do more, work harder, achieve more, amp up, become the performance machine, work long hours until they're exhausted, and wake up the next day feeling I must do this again because the inner critic is there poking and prodding. And the passion that we often use for the three is vanity. And vanity is, in a sense, kind of the inflated fake heart of the three, where I am, in a sense, promoting and, this sense of charismatic, energetic force into the world, this success image, that I am the success image, that this is who I am. And so there's a form of again, this is in relationship to the fact that if I've lost contact with my value, I've got to create something on the outside that at least fills up that hole of failure, which for the type 3 we often call the empty heart. It's like there's nothing there, the fraudulent heart. A lot of times type 3s, when they come into inner work, will have hit a point where they've succeeded incredibly, but it's all been in service of presenting to a crowd their soul and heart for approval. And so what's really going on, even when they succeed, is a deep emptiness. And when it hits an intense enough degree, that's when they start taking that journey into their heart, into healing their heart. So wake-up call is overdrive. When in doubt, work harder, focus like a laser on that next goal, go after the next goal, after the next goal, and keep on moving. So the passive transformation from the broken heart of the three, the mask of vanity that's really covering the empty heart, the worthlessness of the three, is to the open heart of the three, to sincerity, authenticity, to being able to talk about and feel their heart and the sense of emptiness that's there, and the struggle to begin to feel what's authentic and real, and to, in a sense, wake up the heart with its full capacity for radiance and for loving connection with others. So I start to learn, maybe I don't have to be the best. Maybe I can follow my heart's desire, which means for the three is, what we often say is that the little type 3 starts picking up on the heart wishes of mom and dad and has this way of abandoning what they care about, so that when they finally hit adulthood and they're successful, they begin to notice that they're doing something that they don't care that much about, that really is something they inherited as a survival, as a little one. So I start to tune in to following my heart's desire. Maybe I can reveal my real self and people accept me just the way I am. So a great question for yourself is, as an inquiry, is what delights your inner child? So there we have it for the three.